All right. So I'm gonna actually I was gonna do a part start on a new subject today, but I think what I want to do is go back and clarify something from yesterday, and that is that um, everything that I'm saying assumes that you already have a deep and proficiency in creating a certain type of product, food, beverage, like coffee, beer, that you have a deep understanding of and vision for what you want to do from a product perspective, and that now you've been told, "Hey, you're really, really good at this. You really know your stuff. You're like the guy in the group or the girl in the group who knows everything about the product." You know food. You're a foodie, whatever, which doesn't even really give you the ability to start creating and selling that or get into the business. Just because you consume something doesn't mean you have the ability to create it. But and so I want to draw an analogy on that point. The analogy is, imagine if you were going to go buy a car and you went to the dealership and they had a beautiful car sitting out there. Let's see, whatever your favorite car would be that you could go into the lot right now and pick it out. Let's assume that is sitting there and they're going to make it to order for you. In the back, behind the walls, and in the service area, there's a vat of molten plastic and a vat of molten metal. And they're going to take your order. And in 15 to 20 minutes, a car is going to roll around the corner, ready for you to, take home. That's insane. That would never happen. What do you think that car, imagine in your mind's eye what that car would look like as it came around the corner? It probably couldn't come around the corner because it couldn't even, move. But anyway, that's an extreme analogy. But when you walk into a restaurant or your favorite retail food and beverage establishment, you expect that that product is going to be ready in 15 minutes and is going to be perfect consistent every single time and perfect. And not only is it going to achieve those goals, but it's going to be made from perishable material that is getting worse every day. It's not going to be as fresh tomorrow as it is today. So, that's a monumental challenge. But we take it for granted because, every day somewhere a restaurant achieves that or a retail establishment achieves that. So, we're going to assume that you already have the understanding of how to and vision for that product. We can go back and we can say, we can talk about if you're not there yet, that's a situation where you would need further consulting or other help for that. But let's assume you have it. You have a product. People are telling you that you have a deep understanding of this and that you should do something with it. It's your passion. Um, Now, we went on yesterday to where I talked about a location and selecting a location. And I'm tying everything back to the budget. So the first thing you're going to do is create a budget based on expected foot traffic. And 30% of that budget, or 30 cents of every single dollar, will go out to the landlord or to cover the fixed expenses of the location. And so right off the bat, 30 cents of every dollar is gone to that. Now, if it's above that, if for every percentage point your rent or the location is above what it costs you, um, or above the 30% mark, you are dramatically decreasing your chances of success. If it's below that, for every point that it's below that, you're dramatically increasing your chances of success. So when you seek out a location, you're going to first try to estimate the amount of foot traffic, not just foot, but the amount of traffic, you know, vehicle traffic, foot traffic, which foot traffic means um, if somebody comes into the shopping center or the parking lot for some other purpose and they walk around, that traffic then is a potential for you to, grab them and have them notice you and come in. So like a great anchor has been movie theaters are a great anchor. Um, because they bring people in, people tend to walk around after. Um, the only downside to theaters is that there's very specific set times that they have to be there. So it creates for rushes that are difficult to accommodate. But let's assume that you're going to find, I would look at in a given area where you're trying to look, you need to understand what the income level is of the households in that area. And then you need to cross-check that against your product um, cost or the product you're trying to sell and determine if the people in the area, uh, and not a minority of them, but a majority of them have the ability to afford to spend on the product. And then you want to look at how many of them pass by in a car every day, because that gives you the potential to pull them in. And then you also want to look at the foot traffic for the other businesses that are in the same parking lot. Anything outside of that, you cannot count on. People will say, I'm going to come there. People will, you could, yeah, your friends and family will say that they're going to come. People will say they're going to come. That's all a lie. Or not. They will only come after you're successful or when you're giving them free stuff. So they're not something you can count on, nor is word of mouth from them. It's going to be the people that live closest to you, that drive by every day, that pull into the parking lot for some other purpose every day. So once you have that number, the larger number, which is like how many people in general are coming in, to the general area that we have a potential to grab, and would notice this. And then you're going to take that and figure out a very small percentage of those people, 5%, uh, between 5 and not even 10. It's 5% or below, are realistic potential as far as being able to draw those people in initially. Um, so once you've done that calculation, you've looked at many different locations. I would say at least don't fall in love with any one location. Look at least 10 different locations that have a different metric as far as foot traffic and car traffic passing by. Go to your real estate broker, commercial real estate broker, tell them you want to see 10 locations that have, a specific breakdown. Based on the product you're trying to sell or your average ticket. And then what you're going to do is, as I said, you have to calculate what you think your top line is going to be. And then you can only pay a maximum of 30% of whatever that top line revenue is. So you take the numbers from the traffic, you calculate an average ticket, not a high ticket, not a low ticket, but what do you think the average is going to be when someone walks out of the door? And then you take that number, multiply it by the number of potential customers, 5% of them, 5 to 10% of the potential customers, and that will tell you what you can pay in rent. And then you calculate, you look at what the landlord is asking for those 10 locations, do the calculation for each, and then that will tell you what you have to negotiate. If you do not negotiate under that 30% threshold, you will work yourself to death and go out of business. So that's just the truth of the matter. Not only that, I mean, that's not even the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that you start losing money and then you end up in the hole owing a bunch of money and be so it can really go bad in a hurry. in 1 year, you can ruin yourself financially, starting a restaurant. So I'm not being overly dramatic with the failure rates and with how fast you can lose, you know, five, six, seven, $5,000, a week you can lose. Um, anyway, so again, I wanted to reiterate these points on location because that's the first decision that you're going to have to make after product. Um, so if once you've had those 10 locations, once you've done the calculation, and now you're going to negotiate with the landlord. So what I'll do is tomorrow, I want to keep these short. Um, tomorrow I will go over the next video. I will go over, you've identified the location. It's one of the 10 locations that your broker's given you. You've done the calculation. You have your target for 30%, what 30% of that top line number is going to be. And now you're going to go to the landlord and try to get terms to negotiate. Ideally, it would be below the 30% because you have to build in some cushion and some potential that you're wrong. You also have to build in that. So let's say you think you're going to get 5% of your foot traffic or of your traffic, and you only get 3% or 2.5%. Well, now that's dramatically cut back on your top line. And what's going to happen is now your fixed expense for your rent is going to be, or your building is going to now be 40%, 50% um, of your budget, which you're dead. If that's the case, you're going to have to work yourself to death. You'll never have more than one location. You will have to supply the labor 7 days a week so that you can pay, so because you're not going to have any money to pay employees. So now the next phase is negotiation for the landlord. And the big mistake that first time um, entrepreneurs in this space make is they don't negotiate for the landlord to put in any money into improvements of the building because they think that they don't even know it's something that they can do or that's something that is done. But if you think about it, you're taking his asset. You don't own the asset, the building. You're taking it and you're improving it dramatically by putting, $100,000, maybe more in to his building. And if it doesn't work, he's going to still be left with all that value and you're going to be gone. So he should have some of the risk involved in that because he's the one that's you're improving his asset, especially if you've got a design or something really beautiful that is going to inspire him to want to do, want to help pay for it because yeah, because it's going to dramatically improve his building. So that is going to be tomorrow will be the negotiation or the next um, video will be negotiations with, and I think I have the messages on here, the chat. So I probably might not look at it for a while just because I don't want to be swayed by what people are saying. I know all my flaws, so you don't have to remind me there. But what I want to do is I want to get the ideas out, and then I'll probably go back and look at them in some future, a couple of weeks or something, and see if there's things I need to come back and cover, and then fill in those areas that need to be covered. So, all right, that's it for today. As I said, I want to try to keep these to 10 minutes, between 10 and 15 minutes, and if I can go under 10 minutes and get my idea and concept out, then I'm going to do that. If I can't explain it to you in that amount of time, then you're not capable. I mean, if you don't get it in that amount of time, you're not going to get it in 10 times the amount of time I could sit here and explain. to you. If you don't understand the things I'm saying, then yeah, we you should not do this because you will be one of the first year failures. Alrighty. Have a great Halloween. Happy Halloween.